Hey, this is my first video. I think it's kind of funny that I tell all my friends that they should be making videos. I've been wanting to make a video for a very long time, but I've never really got around to doing it. I want to make, let's say, higher quality videos, and so I've been putting it off. But this clearly hasn't happened. So in my mind, it's better just to start than wait for me trying to do something really high quality. So here's my first video. Since it's a new year, it's January 2nd right now, I want to probably focus this video on like what I thought about my 2024 and what I hope to see moving on to 2025. So yeah, I thought 2024 was an interesting year for me. I think it's one of those years, at least for me, that I don't think I've done much on paper. It doesn't to me. I didn't. I feel like I didn't grow in terms of technical ability, but I think I've definitely grown in terms of how I think about the world and like yeah, just generally how I think about the world. I think it's definitely more nuanced and more correct in a way. Or I have a lot of understanding of stuff that happens in the world. And I think that's pretty interesting moving forward. So yeah, that'd be good for me. Basically, I guess two things I guess dominated my view is that one, I think college is really really useless. That's basically the biggest lesson I took away, which I think is interesting. Um, I just got this guy. I thought it's really interesting that I go to I think a pretty good college. But my the biggest thing I got away from it was that it's all useless, and that's kind of depressing. One thing that two things actually a lot of things led me to this decision. The first is that a lot of my friends they can't get internships. No offense, but I think like a lot of them are really really qualified to, and they're not. And if you look at the data on unemployment, what is the major that has the highest unemployment? It's actually computer science majors, not even fine arts. So theoretically, if you want to get a job, it is better for you to major in arts and theater than in computer science. And to me, that is a sign of failure in the system. As in, why do you go to college if you can't even get a job, right? And that is probably one thing that led me to believe that college isn't what it was before. Like maybe in the 1950s, 1980s, you go to college, and you get a job, like guaranteed. You just get a job. It's probably weird for you to even do internships. Like I feel like back then, my parents, well, my parents didn't go to college, but like it's for them the concept of doing internships is weird. They thought like, oh, you just go to college, you're gonna get a job. I think that's the case. For them, it's interesting because the period of time after World War II is basically an anomaly for the U.S. in that we had the best economy in the world and no one can compete against us because literally everywhere is destroyed. Japan was destroyed, China was kind of destroyed, Europe was reeling from the economic impacts. So US had like unparalleled dominance. And that's unique, and that is the not the norm. So we should not expect us to get a job just because of going to college. And so, but most people don't believe that. They repeat history, and the history says go to college and get a job. So that's not the case, and yeah, that's my probably the biggest thing that came away. As well as in like a lot of my classes, I feel like I should not be getting these grades. I have not been getting a lot of A's, or I've been getting a good amount of A's, but there's some classes where I'm like I should not be getting an A minus, uh, but I do. For example, like my writing seminar class, I got an A minus, and I think for people who know me, I think that's maybe that comes as a shock. I feel like I should not have gotten an A minus, and so these grades are just arbitrary things given out by teachers that in no way reflect real skill, and that really turns me away from college as everyone focuses on these GPA. Like technically everyone focuses on these GPAs, but I think everyone knows that they don't really matter as long as you move up in the like career ladder in a way. I would go as far as to say I have this one friend who says if anyone asks about my GPA when I recruit for a job, I would not work for them because that means they don't know like what real skill is, and I think that's interesting. That guy must be really really smart to be able to take a gamble like that. But yeah, it does sum up my thoughts. That's probably one of the biggest mind shifts I had since this year. Another thing is that I got a lot more into reading and doing real work. I typically just read little blogs and like analysis essays, and I thought I'd be going more into like stuff I liked, but I actually ventured out into a lot of stuff that I never knew. For example, a lot of psychology, a lot of like social dynamics and essentially like power and pressure, like how people get influenced by others. I did a lot of semiconductor stuff since that's what I'm writing about right now. Um, a lot of AI stuff. I think AI is, it's AI is probably on everyone's mind. My dad knows about AI. My mom knows about AI. Everyone knows about AI. I think it's interesting for GPT, OpenAI, because they're seen as like the best player in that space, but these new models that have come out recently kind of prove that they are not. And so they really have this. I assume 2025 is their last major push towards proving their dominance. Otherwise, they might just fizzle out, and I think that will be quite interesting for the world to see them fizzle out. Yeah. I did a lot of other work in actual writing. I write like technical blogs, but moving forward for next year, I want to read like actual books instead of these newsletters. And I want to start a real blog and niche down on interesting technologies and like organizations that existed before but has not really come into light. For example, I think Bell Labs is, to everyone in the tech world, Bell Labs is a really fascinating example because they were a great player, but they died as a monopoly because of U.S. regulation. And so one thing I'm exploring now is whether regulation is a good thing at all. I think America is losing to China in so many different ways, purely because we have just so much regulation, and perhaps it's just not good at all. If you look at the number of AI startups that come out of Europe, there's basically none, except for Mistral. And that's probably because the European laws are so strict on safety, while Americans just focus on like, oh, just do like these exciting things. And so possibly we have just too much bureaucracy across the government and across society. Um, yeah, so starting a real blog, niching down core technologies. One really interesting technology that I found was phage therapy and like medication on phages, because there's a big problem in like super bacterial bugs, and everyone's just focusing on like, oh, like better therapies and stuff like that, but for some reason no one talks about phages, which just kills all bacteria no matter what resistance they have, because well, they're clearly not evolved against resistance. I want to work on more cool stuff with cool companies. I think that is probably one of my biggest hopes for next year. I already have some pretty cool things I'm really excited about working with some companies. I'll be traveling, I think, quite a bit next semester, or the beginning half of my next of 2025. Be going out to places and be talking to a lot of people. That would be really fun for me. And then finally, I just want to make more in-depth videos, because like sure, I can vlog like these random thoughts I have, but I think it's more probably impactful, or something I would rather do is work on a really, really informational video that I can be really proud of instead of just some monologue ramblings. So hopefully that will come into play. The biggest challenge in that aspect is I don't know how to do graphics or animations. I think these cool videos that I imagine in my head are only really successful because they have like really nice graphics, and I'm struggling to think how I would replicate that. My initial thought is AI, because it's cheap, it's easy to do, but it also looks like shit, and I don't want my channel to just be filled of AI like slop. And finally, I've been getting really, really good at this algo trading. I, I mean, just today I was trading on the stock for short term since I have more time now. I'm on winter break, so like I don't have to worry about college or whatnot. And I don't know, I think I'm doing pretty well, like really, really well. So I just want to I want to change my algorithm that I currently have and see if I can make triple my money next year. I think that'd be so, so cool to talk about. So yeah, that's my goals of next year. And hopefully, I see my next year, since I'm dropping out, I see next year as probably not a super fun year, in like maybe at the end of 2025. I wouldn't think it's a fun year, but I hope that in 10 years when I look back, 2025 will be one of those years that I've changed a lot, as like a catalyst for the change that I have in the future. I think there's a lot of cool stuff I'm doing, and I do want that to continue, and I hope 2025 will be that year.